Alright, so we're not done yet, guys. I know you're probably like, oh my god, more Tkinter stuff. You want to move on to the good stuff, right? And I do too, but I want to cover a few more stuff, or a few more things. First one's an arc, alright? I'm sure you might know what an arc is. Again, if you've studied circles, if you've studied how circles are, you might know something called maybe the minor arc and the major arc. If you don't know what I'm talking about, basically, this would be a circle. You would make this as the minor arc, and then this would be the major arc, something like that. Again, I'm not too good at explaining what's going on over here, but an arc, again, an arc is basically a curved line, right? So to create an arc, all you have to do is say canvas.createArc, and then you specify, hey, how do I want to create this? The way arc works is, well, actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and create some, and then I'll explain actually what's happening. So, do this. Let's go ahead and create a few arcs. First one's going to be 10, 10, 200, 80. Okay? Second one is, or, actually, you know what? One sec. Let me think about this. 10, 10, and then 200, 80. Alright, so yes, I know what I'm doing. So 10, 10, 200, and then 80. And then what I want you to do is go ahead and specify a parameter called extent. Okay? And basically what extent does is, what if you don't want to create the arc all the way? If you want to do maybe 1/4 of it, 45 degrees, 90 degrees, 180, or maybe the whole thing, which would be 359 in this case, or maybe 360. So extend, let's go ahead and try 45 for now, okay? And then go ahead and just specify the style to be equal to arc, okay? Copy this, Command C, create one more. Now this next one's gonna be 10, 80. So we're bringing it down a bit, all right? Instead of 10, 10, we're bringing it down to 10, 80, and then we're specifying 200, 80. Okay? So that basically means 200 pixels across, and so on and so forth. So that's that. Make sure you can change the extent a bit, maybe 90. Save this, F5. Let's take a look at what happens. Alright, so as you can see, we now have this 1/4 of an arc, and we have a straight line. So let's go ahead and talk about this code. Again, you might not have understood what's happening, and let me quickly explain what's happening. So over here, you have 10, 10, 200, 80. So think about an arc, all right? I'm going to open a new paintbrush, and that's because that's the best way I can actually explain to you what's going on. So let me create one, okay? Think of this as an arc, all right? Or more like this and then this, okay? This is an arc. We want to create this arc. What Python sees is this, okay? Not really that, but I'm sorry. Command Z, something like this. Yes. This is what Python sees, all right? When we're specifying that the top, these coordinates, 10, 10, 200, 80, we're basically specifying to Python, hey, I want you to create an arc whose rectangular coordinates are 10, 10, this would be 10, 10, and this would be 200, 80. And then inside of that rectangle, Python would create an arc, all right? So if you're wondering, well, looking back at our Python simulator, this doesn't look like 80. Well, obviously it doesn't. This is, I believe this is probably 40, and then if you go down a bit more over here, this would be 80, all right? The reason why we got a straight line is because these two are clashing. Go ahead and change this from 80 to 160 so that it brings it down 80 pixels more. F5. And now we see, ta-da, so this is 45 degree, 90 degree, 180 will get you all the way across, 359 will make a complete oval. Now you're probably wondering, well, 360 degrees is a circle. We're using 359 instead of 360 because Tkinter considers 360 to be same as 0 and wouldn't draw anything. Cool. So we talked about ovals, arcs, and ovals, ellipses, they're basically the same concept. Let's go ahead and talk about text because if you're creating any games, you're creating anything in GUI, you want to display some text. Hey, this is my app, it's created by me, this is the title, stuff like that. So to create text, and text is actually quite awesome, quite simple. So you say canvas.create, and then you use the text function, so create text. Then over here, you specify where do you want to create this text, right? The way this works is basically the top left, or the sentence will be positioned at these two coordinates, not actually one coordinate. So canvas.create text, let's say I want to do it in the center, maybe 150, 150, and then you can specify what the text is. This is my first GUI text, and it is awesome. Yay! Save this, F5, let's take a look. Python module, as you can see, it's now centered. So the first two parameters of the text basically says, hey, where do you want to put this text? I mean, it's basically the middle coordinate of the text. So 150, 150 is like this middle point over here. And then all we did is we specified what the text is. Again, remember, you can change the text, or I'm sorry, you can change the font, you can change the font size. The way you would do this is, actually it's quite cool. We have this, we can now say font, and then you specify, equal to, and then in brackets, you specify the font type, or the font family. You can do, let's do times, I guess, Times New Roman. And then you specify what the size is. So I'm going to do 30. Save this, F5. Let's take a look. Invalid syntax. What's the error? It says random rex is not defined. Why is that giving me an error? Oh, I'm sorry. That random rex should no longer be there since we've deleted that. F5, invalid syntax again. Oh, it's giving me an error for the font. That's odd. Delete the equal to, that might be an issue. F5, does that work? Yes, it does. So going over here, it's a blank screen. Wah, wah, wah. So I guess for the font, that's odd. What can we do? So looking at this, the font equal to is not working. Normally it does. So, oh, I see. Though. We forgot a comma over here. By specifying the comma instead of a period, we should no longer see the error. And taking a look, wow. So it's big, it's black, and it's awesome. Awesome. Cool. So as you can see, we've now been able to change the font size. We were able to change the font family. And if you're wondering how to change the color, it's fill. So you can say fill is equal to maybe white. You know, if you're changing the background to black, stuff like that. But awesome job. Alright, so we covered a lot. As you can see, I've deleted my code now so that I can prepare for the next lecture. However, we talked about arcs, we talked about text, and that's fantastic. I won't be talking about images again. It's not too necessary right now, and you might run into an error or two, but you can fiddle around. Again, there's some great online resources for learning some Tkinter stuff. But in the next lecture, and this will probably be the end or the finale of this whole Tkinter section, we're going to be talking about animation. So moving objects, creating some basic animations, and then we'll work on this, alright? So we'll build upon this and then create our full-fledged gaming apps later on in the future. So see you then.